Labour leader Alan Kelly told the Hard Shoulder here on Newstalk the government needs to have contingencies in place to deal with the expected decision.
There's a lot of logistics and planning here that needs to change pretty quickly. I want an assurance from the government, that we can still get to 4 or 5 people being inoculated by June.
The acting chief medical officer has warned there's considerable risk of a fourth wave of COVID-19 if Ireland reopens too soon. Dr Ronan Glynn will appear before an Oireachtas committee tomorrow to give an update on the fight against the virus. He'll tell TDs and senators a further wave can be mitigated if social contact remains largely unchanged over the next 6 weeks. Meanwhile, there's been 394 new COVID-19 cases and no new deaths. 175 of the cases are in Dublin, 34 in Kildare, 21 in Galway, 21 in Mayo and 20 in Limerick. The country's 14-day incidence rate is 132 cases per 100,000 people, down 15% on the previous week. Insurance premiums should come down from June, according to the Junior Finance Minister. It's after new guidelines were agreed that will lead to a reduction in the amount paid out to claimants in personal injury cases. Minister Sean Fleming says he's met with a number of insurance companies recently.
This reduction is coming as a result of the judges who came together in March and decided to reduce the awards that would be granted in court for some personal injuries that they felt were excessive up to now.
And Dublin City Council is examining a proposal to install a memorial to people who have died from COVID-19. Councillor Pat Dunn has requested a permanent memorial be installed in the Kimmage Rathmines area in the south of the city. He says the idea could also be extended further.
It's important that we have in each area something to remind people in the future of what we've gone through in the last year and what we're still going through.
That's it for now. More in an hour.
Newstalk weather.
Any showers in eastern areas will die out tonight and it'll be mainly dry across the country. Some fog and frost in places overnight with lowest temperatures of -1 to +2 degrees. And now you're up to date on Newstalk.
The News Round on Off the Ball
with Gillette. Put your best face forward with our new and improved razors.
This is Newstalk.
Well, Rachael Blackmore's dream season gets dreamier by the day. We'll chat to Katie Walsh and Johnny Ward about the Aintree Grand National winner. Monday Night Rugby then on Ireland's Six Nations opener and the ever-growing divide in that competition. What needs to be done? Plus Leinster, La Rochelle in a European semi-final. Niamh Briggs and Rory O'Connor after 8 o'clock. Plus on the football show, Pat Nevin on the weekend's action, including Manchester United against Spurs. Jose... well, I don't know what to say anymore. And Karen Duggan on Ireland-Belgium last night. 5 games, no goals from play for Ireland, but there is talk of progress being made. We'll see what Karen thinks. 53106 is the text number. We're at Off the Ball on Twitter. Richie McCormack, evening.
Hey Joe, how are you?
All is good, my man. And Adrian Barry, hello to you.
Evening Joe, Richie.
Lead us off, Adrian. What tickled your fancy over this bumper weekend?
Joe, I mean, you're inviting me into all sorts of conversations there. Well, our audience knows there's only one place you want to begin.
No. I'm easy. I'm all golfed out. We recorded a Golf Weekly bumper podcast this morning. We had a Golf Weekly watch along last night. Surprisingly well attended. People have little enough to be doing during a pandemic. So I've managed, I've voiced it. It's all waiting for the Patreon subscribers there. So I've got a lot of the golfing talk out of my system. That said, I'll follow you anywhere.
I enjoyed it, Joe, I have to say. I was sort of half paid to watch it, obviously, on Sunday evening. I was watching the United game on mute while listening to you lads, and it was great. Great build-up to we got a bit of a run for our money at some point over the course of the day, but and nobody begrudges Hideki his win, obviously. It was an incredible feat, history-making, all those sort of things. And actually, when it boiled down to it, I was definitely in the camp that please knock 5 balls into the water at some way around and still go on to win it. And that was almost kind of what happened to some degree. But we were reliant, obviously, on Xander Schauffele to take up the mantle, Joe, and it didn't really happen. But it was enjoyable. I am interested in and I'm sure our audience are in the Joe Molloy taking events.
As Masters go, meh. All the way through, I think.
Why?
Well, there's a few problems. I mean, the TV coverage, and I touched on this with you on Thursday, so I won't labour the point, is dreadful. In 2021, that tournaments are being covered this way. So Augusta, for a long time wouldn't even show the front nine on a Sunday until relatively recently. So on a Thursday and a Friday, they restrict what the TV companies can show. So you get featured groups. So you, in effect, will follow 2 groups of 3 around the course for the 5 hours up until live coverage starts at 8 o'clock. This, by the way, with an app which shows every single shot every player has hit, and is like a
it's
wonder.
the strangest dichotomy in the world, because you've got that app and you've got the website as well. The two of them are pretty much simpatico.
Yeah.
You can see literally I was watching every shot that Larry was playing when I was stuck here in the bedroom on Friday night and Thursday night as well.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of seeing how he was trucking along, and he can do that with every single person. So for their TV coverage, relayed obviously here via Sky, to be so kind of really outdated, to a crazy degree, just doesn't make any sense.
No, totally. Couldn't have said it better. So it meant on Friday, with Jordan Spieth tearing it up, with Justin Thomas tearing it up, Thursday with Bryson tanking, with Rory tanking. This was the tournament, Thursday and Friday, and yet none of it played out on television. The only aspect of the tournament they caught on Thursday and Friday was the Justin Rose 7 under round on Thursday evening. But otherwise, the tournament actually happened away from the TV coverage for a lot of it, because by Friday evening, when the TV coverage could start properly, all the big boys were done then, and it just carried little relevance. So Thursday and Friday, for those reasons, Adrian, were distinctly meh. And then Saturday, for about 3 hours, was amazingly good. There was a period where Matsuyama was making his eagle on 15 and Rose was holding for birdie on 12, that it was properly good golf, and it was all caught there, and I thought, wow, this is amazing. Unfortunately, Matsuyama played too damn well. And there was no sense of real jeopardy, I would have said, last night. First hole, first shot, he sliced it high and into the trees, but then recovered and kept on recovering anytime he was in trouble. And I don't know about you, I mean, I was spending more time looking at my phone and around the time he was getting to the 15th and watching the action, and Xander Schauffele quickly put paid to any tension there. So I think you're right to say, in fairness to Matsuyama, brilliant player. It's probably great for Japanese golf and Asian golf, and he's a worthy winner. But in terms of excitement, I would say it was a 3 out of 10 Masters. Wow. But still the 4 best days of the year.
Still 10 out of 10 for value. Yeah. Outside of the fact that it was crap, it's still the Masters. So I look at there is all of that. There's all of that. Look at it. Do you know, there was a point last night where I'm in the middle of watching Drive to Survive, whatever it's called, the Formula 1 thing, and there was definitely a point before Schauffele turned on the afterburners and Matsuyama started turning on a bit of stuff of his own into the water, that I was kind of thinking, I might dip out here. But then you were kind of half into this 16th, 17th, maybe you were hoping against hope. I thought Matsuyama was playing the course at the end in a way of a guy who, one of the commentators made the point at some point that he's bought himself the right to hit the azaleas at some stage. And that was I thought that was kind of fair enough. And he looked to me, and you know far more about it than I do, that he was playing the course that way, that even on the last, I'll knock it up. If I get it into the bunker, I'll get it up and down I'll have a 2-putt, and it'll be all fine. And that was kind of the way it played out. The Zalator stuff, Joe, that I was tweeting about last night was sort of the TV coverage is now, I don't really. There was a time where you kind of turn on the TV coverage. I know some of the characters are missing now, but you turn it on almost for that as much as anything else. I do enjoy McGinley. I think I know he spoke to you guys last week, and he does his research about it, obviously, and he's an incredibly insightful pundit and analyst, and obviously he's putting the work in, and you would tune in for him. Some of the rest of it, I mean, I'm not tuning in.
Not for you, Adrian.
I know Peter Ellis had his day, and in 2021, he's not going to last very long, a Peter Ellis type. And I'm not even necessarily talking about that, but just there's no characters, Joe. That's no characters left.
You want a bit of Ken on the course, that kind of stuff.
A little bit of that, yeah.
I think that's,
Ken on the course is good stuff. Yeah.
Butch brings a bit to it. The Butch time delay was great as well.
I was crazy. It was absolutely crazy, wasn't it?
The ball's off the green and Butch is like, stay. Yeah, it was.
It was crazy. I was making the point on Twitter last night, but the Zalator stuff really, actually, the more I read a bit about him today, and I just thought, lads, there's such a rich story there to be told about this fella. Like,
oh, you
really
had a good
rich
tweet.
story.
They just kept saying he doesn't know what's going on. That's why he's playing well.
So, somebody tell this guy. Butch was like the main man at it. Every time he came on the screen, Butch clearly, a bit like myself, had never heard of this guy before this week, and then was like, I'm doing him an injustice there.
Yeah.
But was definitely, I better say something about him. So I'll just go back to the stock. Somebody should tell him he's second in the Masters. But this is like, as I did a bit of reading about him today. His story is unbelievable. Like he was taught to play golf by 2 former major winners. That only scratches the surface.
Oh yeah, who?
Lanny Wadkins, Joe.
Yeah.
And Ken Venturi.
Oh, nice, Ken Venturi.
One apiece, but a lot of yeah, sure, a lot of like
no, Ken's a legend. Yeah.
Incredible players, like 15-time major PGA Tour winner. So had great fortune even to get this far. Was certainly had come up in the same era as Morikawa, had blitzed it on a Walker Cup team where the rest of his team were going backwards. There's umpteen little nuggets about him that at any point would have been great to have informed the audience about last night, and it just never came.
Okay. There's a few texts coming in. We'll get to those in a moment. And quick word on Leinster. I know you were watching Leinster. As ever, Adrian Barry watches Leinster with a cheese board. That's important for you to know.
Do you know?
Check his Twitter. I'd like to say I'm joking.
I was so nervous on Saturday that I couldn't even muster the cheese board and the wine.
Couldn't touch the cheese.
I couldn't, and I was glad I didn't, because I wouldn't have been able to touch it after 10 minutes. That's for sure.
That's as good a win as they've ever had in the tournament, I would say to you.
I was at the Toulouse game, the Dennis Hickey try in the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, outside of the finals, that's probably up there for me. Like,
yeah, no, sure, yeah.
Like, I think there was
as good as. I'm not going to say better, but it compares very, very favourably with anything they've done.
I think that's fair enough. I think that there was a large part of that those tries earlier on, and I saw there was some people tweeting about O'Flaherty, and he was like, how, man of the match. But there was a lot of that. There were like Leinster making him look like he was in John Aloma mood on the PlayStation. You know what I mean? Like, there was definitely they were falling off tackles early on in a way that suggested they hadn't played in a couple of weeks and weren't really up to scratch. But look, like you say, like certainly at that point you're thinking, Jesus, 14-0 down against the reigning champions. There's no way back into this. So to have achieved what they did in the end was incredible. I mean, it's exactly, maybe it'd be more befitting of the final, but Ronan O'Gara against Leinster. I mean, there will be nothing more to be said about this game over the next 3 weeks. It's what a storyline.
Yeah. The news round on Off the Ball on Newstalk is with thanks to Gillette. We don't just play the game, we change it. Gillette made of what matters. And you're starting, Richie, with this elite status business and how it affects sport. And I presume they're going to sort everything out, are they?
It seems as so they are, yeah. As you know, that draw between Leinster and La Rochelle had a big question mark over it, given the restrictions imposed upon travellers from France. Minister for Health Stephen Donnelly confirming today that the government is working towards giving elite sports people special travel exemptions. Ireland's meeting with France in the Women's Six Nations in association with Guinness, as well as Leinster's Heineken Champions Cup semi-final with La Rochelle, have both been cast into doubt. France was last week added to that list of countries where mandatory quarantine is required upon entry to Ireland, but Minister Donnelly says elite and professional athletes are set to be given a reprieve. It's also likely good news for organisers of July's Irish Open at Mount Juliet. Going back to Saturday's win over Wales, Bevan Parsons scored a pair of tries for Ireland in that 47-0 demolition at the Arms Park in Cardiff. And in this morning's OTB AM, she revealed the Irish coaching team had been encouraging her to seek out more tries during games.
My coaches the whole way up have they've always encouraged me to go for the tries and to, put my foot down, even if things don't look like they're on. Sometimes a gap will appear. So I've always been encouraged to just go for it. Maybe teammates will be screaming if it's on, and if it is, I'll pop them the ball. But I've always been encouraged.
That full interview, well worth listening back to. I mean, amazing. She's 19 and has been in the squad for 3 years and was very, very good on Saturday against very poor opposition. We'll talk about it with Niamh Briggs later on. So the Irish performance, very positive. First game in nearly 6 months, Adrian, so that's great and bodes well. And the French match is going to be, the real winning and losing of this group. But from a tournament perspective and where the game goes, you have 4 matches now across 2 rounds, and I think the closest margin in any of the games was 42 points. England put 67 on Italy. A couple of them had 50 points plus winning margins. 42-point winning margin is no game at all. So the haves and the have-nots are emerging along professional and not professional lines, and Ireland are going to have to think very quickly, or the RFU are going to think very quickly about which side of that divide they want to be on.
Well, you think about the difference. If you look at Ireland nilling Wales, imagine the difference between England and Wales. Like there really is a gulf there. It's in some ways. Look, obviously, France and Ireland will duke it out, as Richie said, and that will happen now at the weekend for a fairly dubious prize against England. Like it is a very it's not a very level playing field, unfortunately, when you get to that level, and like the game has serious work to do on that front. It was a conversation that was had in depth last year about whether we could see a full professional game here anytime soon, and a lot of voices around the game, Fiona Steed, Fiona Coughlin, talking about it and saying that they don't see it anytime soon. Even in their lifetime they were talking about. So I mean, if it's not the right thing to do now, fair enough, but like, what is it that we need to get there? Because like, if England just keep making those strides ahead, you don't want to be preempting anything in a few weeks' time, but I mean, there's a level of inevitability about it in some regards. They keep making those strides ahead and the rest get left behind. It doesn't do anything for the game, really. Yeah,
I mean, look, none of us have any great access to RFU finances, and they laid off 20 staff last week, so there is a context here for this conversation for sure. We're not talking in the next 12 months or 24 months, I would think, but I mean, something whereby there's an equivalent of the sevens with better money, and you've got 15 to 20 players training every day, high performance unit every day, and because there are a couple of bigger tournaments coming now, so it's not just like it's for a handful of matches a year. And like the men's team bring in 82% of all revenue anyway, the men's Irish team. So it's not like all aspects of the men's game are washing their faces, So in that context, they might have to have a chat about where their priorities lay. But we'll see what Niamh thinks. She's on the way after 8 o'clock. Rory O'Connor as well. Leinster hoping to bring back fans pretty soon.
Yeah, they're looking to pioneer fans' return to sport in the country. They've submitted plans to the government to assess the use of rapid antigen testing. Leinster have proposed the testing's use at a trial match at the RDS for a crowd of 2,000. It's hoped that trial could take place as early as next month.
And then Premier League this evening.
Yeah, there's 6 o'clock starts to the first of this evening's 2 Premier League games, now well into the second half, approaching the hour mark indeed. At the Hawthorns, where it's West Brom 2, Southampton 0. A Matthias Pereira penalty and a goal from Matt Phillips, both inside 3 minutes of each other, have the Baggies in control. They also had a goal disallowed by VAR, and Bae Diang was adjudged to be offside by VAR. Again, it looked like one of these crazy decisions. On the team news front, Callum Robinson and Dara O'Shea both started for Big Sam's side, while Will Ferry, the Republic of Ireland under-21 winger, is on the bench for the Saints. There's an 8:15 start to the game at the Amex tonight, where Everton are looking to breathe new life into their European ambitions. They're away to Brighton. Everton without a win in their last 3 Premier League games, and Carlo Ancelotti said after the recent draw with Crystal Palace that the strikers need to be more clinical, but he doesn't think they're feeling the pressure.
We talk about Richarlison and Calvert-Lewin. I can say they have a really good ability in the box. Usually they are really clinical, and they were really clinical this season. Calvert-Lewin scored a lot of goals. In that specific situation, they against Crystal Palace, they were not clinical. This is the truth. And after that, what can I say to them? Nothing, because I am really satisfied for their season. I think that was an episode, and I think that the team is able to give them the same chances that they had against Crystal Palace, they are going to score.
I wouldn't say that was the most electric clip you've ever brought us, Rich.
That's pretty anti-Italian there, Joe, I would say.
I don't know. I thought Xander was right in it until he pooped his pants on 16, says Colin, who gives it a 6 out of 10. Senan says the lack of crowds at Augusta is just massive. On last day, the oohs, the ahs around the course, it's just not the same. Perversely, I think that's true. It's even more true than like football game. I think the piped-in crowd does an okay job in football of making you forget, but there is something missing. That's two Masters now at November, and this one where it just kind of hasn't worked on a Sunday. All right. On the golf lads, they only sell certain times to a TV company, so people watch the app and the website, meaning they can make money from advertising. Kieran, no, I don't think that's the case. I think they have more money than they know what to do with, to be honest. I just think it's tradition. I guarantee you, Kieran, the annoying thing is in the next decade, they'll have sorted this out. But it's the last remnants of whatever
they think
tradition was there.
Yeah, they think they're selling the idea of you're entitled to these couple of hours tour around Augusta. The players that are involved are merely kind of a sideshow. There's no necessarily any tie to them until we get to Saturday and Sunday when they're the leaders, and then we can talk about it. But on the Thursday and Friday, they just want to show you around and then ease you back out the door at your adjudicated time, and that's all.
Yeah, I'd love to know what the logic is. I don't think it's money for the app, though. I mean, the app's only a relatively recent thing, and they have plenty of money.
They make way more from, I think it's CBS are showing it in the States, they make way more from TV coverage over there and from Sky added onto that than they would do online.
When do you think the broadcasters at some point are putting their hands up and going, here lads, hang on a second now, come on now. I mean, they must have had a conversation at some point, but the conversations with that particular group of people, I mean, I don't know how those conversations go. They don't feel that, it kind of feels like you'd sit around the table and go, hey lads, can we get a bit more coverage here, because our audience is really crying out for more of that free stuff that you're showing over there in the app. No. Okay, no problem. Here's your 700 million.
They seem to be almost beholden. Like, they can't even say the fans, they have to say the patrons. You know, it's an odd relationship, that one. So,
what's the real root of that? Why do they insist on that? People, like, it's a funny thing that comes around once a year and everybody goes, the patrons, and they point it out. But, like, what's the real root of something?
Don't think you want to get into the exclusivity of Augusta, Adrian.
Yeah.
It's all sorts, though. Like, you can't even call the rough. It has to be called the first cut.
Stop.
It's ridiculous.
But even the remember the story of Ray's Creek, the guy that was named after came to light at a time in society where a lot of statues have been torn down or places have been renamed. Like, it really feels like maybe they could hold a mirror up to themselves. I don't look, nobody expects this stuff to happen anytime soon.
Yeah.
But it's all a bit weird.
John in Roscommon says, lads, if you think Sky's coverage of the Masters was bad, you should have watched CBS coverage with the insufferable Nick Faldo. Dreadful stuff. That's Sir Nick Faldo, John. I would remind you.
Is he one of these people that insists on being called Sir, like Sir Ben Kingsley does?
I don't know, actually. I don't think so. But I don't know. They certainly don't call him Sir Nick on the broadcast.
Right. Because Ben Kingsley was definitely, like, that was in his contract wherever he went. He is Sir Ben Kingsley and nothing else now.
His contract with who? I mean, I can call him Ben.
Well, like, any kind of interviewer, because you're not going to be chatting to him anytime soon in front of a camera.
Then I'm calling him Ben. Then I'm calling him Sir Ben. Okay.
Call him Benny for all you want. Like, it's grand. But, like, if he's going for an interview, if he's turning up on Graham Norton, if he's turning up in an interview for, whatever film he's doing next, or if he's accepting an Oscar, he's Sir Ben Kingsley and out more.
Now to a player who had some tough injuries, but had a very good career nonetheless. He's retiring. Yeah,
bad injuries at the bad time. At bad times, I'd say. Yeah, Tommy O'Donnell has become the latest Munster player to confirm their retirement. The flanker will hang up his boots once his 14th season with the province comes to an end. Since his debut in 2007, O'Donnell has racked up 186 appearances. No doubt a couple more to come as well. His haul of 13 international caps would no doubt have been greater were it not for injuries. A dislocated hip in a warm-up game with Wales deprived O'Donnell of a place in the Ireland squad for the 2015 World Cup, and sticking with Munster, or rather not, today as well. Nick McCarthy, the scrum half, has confirmed that he's rejoining Leinster after 2 seasons down at Thomond Park.
By the way, we're going to have to decide here. Are OTB, are we on Team Leinster, doing it for Ireland, or are we on Team Rog, our good friend Rog?
We're on neither team, Joe. Isn't that the whole essence of this?
Yeah.
This thing. Although I have seen that the Off the Ball Twitter account has tweeted out my cheese board. So for anybody not listening, It really does help me there.
When you're doing the cheese board, do you have like a different? Do you get like a pack of crackers that has like 5 different varieties in it? Do you have different crackers for different type cheeses, or is it the cracker is your baseline?
I'd be a Cars Melts man, Richie. I can't really get past them. You want to have a bit of sliced apple there as well, you need to have a bit of fruit.
I'm not throwing fruit in with cheese. It doesn't agree with me.
Oh, Richie, no. And if you're out of apples, grapes, really, you got to get something in there.
No, you're one of these freaks that puts grapes with brie and stuff like that. That's just not right.
And depending on the type of cheese you're having, that's what dictates whether you're going cracker or apple.
Would you?
This is the good stuff, lad. Like we were giving out about the Masters coverage. I mean, I'm sure.
Can we just say, how dare you give out to Fred Ridley and everybody in charge of Augusta when you're there going on about your cheese
Adrian
board
Barry hates
and
the
your
elites.
crackers?
Hates the elites.
No, listen, cheese and meats, that sort of stuff, lads. It's as old as time.
Would you know your cheese?
I mean, I knows what I like. That's
Okay.
kind of
Okay.
so. Like, I would certainly not describe myself as a connoisseur on any of those fronts, Sean.
On Team Rog v Team Leinster, someone tweeted me the other day saying, why don't you ever criticise Rog? He's got you in his pocket. I was like, well, he's 10 months into the job. They're second in the top 14 and in a European Cup semi-final. Like, give me a chance.
Yeah. And he's also on, like, he's on with us talking about, like, giving us real insight into what it is that makes Ronan O'Gara the coach.
But like, if it's not going well, we'll talk to him about that. But I mean, it's like you haven't said you need to criticise him more.
Go on then. Give us the first question on that.
Well, I don't know what is. I mean, so things are not going well in the league or the European Cup. I see, Rog. Oh wait, you're second and in the semi-final. Now, to be fair,
taking a provincial side from nowhere to second in the top 14.
Yeah, I think he's doing okay.
Where's that gone wrong?
Yeah.
He's doing okay. I mean, the big question is how quickly is he thinking about coming home? Is he thinking about coming home? I don't think he is actually. I think it'll be.
Say he's building there, isn't he? Like that's by all accounts, it's not a team of Galacticos, and he's building a culture. Like they talk about it all the time. The like he keeps giving those interviews with BT after games. I think he didn't come out the other day, if I'm right. I think they put John Gibbs up, but if he keeps giving those interviews, he's going to have a lot of Premiership clubs looking at him as well, going, "Geez, this guy's smart."
Yeah, for sure. And because we I guess he's working towards the Irish job ultimately, isn't he? So I don't know if I don't think it's a prerequisite that you have to take a provincial job before the Irish job. But so the Irish job, Joe Schmidt did 6 years. That seems like a decent innings. There's not a great record of finding employment in Irish rugby after the Irish job finishes, So like you probably have to time it with your age. Like, do you want to be? What is he now? Early 40s. Do you want to be 53, 54 and kind of on the proverbial scrap heap? Probably not.
Well, there's probably two factors to it. There's that element of it for sure, but I also think what opportunity will come up is probably the other side of that.
I wouldn't underestimate what the avenues that are opening up in front of him in France, to be honest with you, because he's after clearly making a name for himself over there, as I mentioned, with a side who weren't necessarily spoken about in terms of top two of the top couture or in semi-finals of the European Champions Cup, and he suddenly has them there. John O'Gibbs, you mentioned there, is perhaps on his way to Claremont in a similar capacity over the next couple of months, so he might look towards a year or two down the line bringing Rog along with him. Failing that, I'm sure he's made enough contacts elsewhere that he could feasibly walk into one of the quote-unquote big clubs in France without any bother over the next 2-3 years. Or indeed, like, why not? Like, if they've employed someone like Sean Edwards, if he ingratiates himself with the culture enough, I'm looking at the next crop of people under Galtier, and you're wondering who would the next one up be. I don't think there's any outstanding candidate. Why not?
Let's not get ahead of ourselves there.
It's possible. I can see that happening. I can, like, particularly if you're looking to. If your theory is correct, John, I definitely buy a bit of that. Like, if you go into the international gig and, there's very few Graham Henrys out there, right? Like that sort of knock that, Steve Hansen's out there, right? That knock that longevity out of it. And it's done in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, 6 years' time. And then sort of where do you go after that? Like, with different story with France, because you just leave town and, come back around and we love you here regardless. You can see it.
Okay. We have a quick few texts to get through before we talk Rachael Blackmore. Has Richie been watching The Sopranos recently, wonders John? Sir Ben Kingsley makes a cameo appearance in the final season, has that exact conversation about his title with Christopher, although another John has texted in to say, "Hi guys, love the show." Thanks, John. That rumour that Kingsley insists on being called Sir is completely 100% not true. He actually pointed this out on numerous occasions. It's an urban myth. Happy to be corrected. There we go. Lads, a cheese board. I know I'm going to mispronounce what's coming up here. John Sullivan and Carlo. A cheese board is nothing without quince jelly.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Bingo.
Yeah.
I mean, it's wrong.
I'd be having that, yeah.
On a moral level.
Is quince jelly...
It's just a little accompaniment, Joe. You might have a bit of chutney with it, a little bit of jelly, just something to it's in the same category as your little bit of fruit there.
But would it be of a... It would be more jam than jelly.
A little jammy, yeah.
Okay. Jelly, the way the Americans call jam jelly.
No, it would actually be. I mean, I don't know what the correct. Yeah, its texture would be probably more jellyish than jam.
Right.
This is
Come on, fellas, we've hit rock bottom.
Yeah.
Always knew it had to happen someday. So there we are. Monday the 12th, rock bottom. Adrian Barry's watch. Shocked. Fellas, we're done. Thanks so much. We'll say goodbye to Adrian Barry. Thank you. Go off and enjoy your cheese board.
Thanks, lads.
Richie McCormack, thank you.
Callum Robinson scored again, Joe. 3-0 West Brom.
Did he? I love that we got minutes into Callum Robinson's legs just so he could really hit the ground running with West Brom.
He's saving West Brom from relegation. We won't see him again until June when they'll pull out of that international camp.
Sam Allardyce will stop playing him just in time for the next international break. Richie McCormack and Adrian Barry there. Now, by the way, every night this week we're giving away 4 tickets for the upcoming Leaders Lounge live event. That's a ticket for you and 3 friends, along with a hamper of goodies to enjoy during the event, which happens on April 22nd. Has the likes of Razzie Erasmus, Brian O'Driscoll, Lady Chanel McCoy, Joanne O'Riordan and Paul McGinley, who will all be discussing their approach to leadership to be in with a chance of winning. Just tell us, in what year was Paul McGinley the captain of the European Ryder Cup team? What year was McGinley captain of the European Ryder Cup team? Text your name and answer to 53106 for 30 cents and we'll contact you after the show. All with thanks to Leaders Lounge. You can check out leaderslounge.com. Short ad break. We have Monday Night Rugby after 8, but we're talking Rachael Blackmore next with Johnny Ward and Katie Walsh.
I was so pleased to just be there and be playing at a